a little bit of an unorthodox stock. What? I'm currently eating lunch. It's pretty tasty. But I'm eating lunch and I have a topic. Today is another lighthearted topic. Because I didn't want to talk about anything too serious today. Hold on. I'm just gonna make some fences real quick. If I remember to make sticks. Oh, I already had sticks. I'm so stupid. It's alright. We got this. Too easy. I don't think this is enough fences, but I'll be right. But I couldn't really think of a topic to talk about that wouldn't limit my reach a little bit. Although I do want to talk about controversial stuff on here, I'm still a small channel, so controversial topics make it harder for me to reach people. I've already noticed limited visibility on certain episodes. Almost certainly because of the political or one of those aspects, where it's kind of just the filters kind of recognize that it's a little bit controversial what I'm saying in the video. All right, I think I want the top layer here to have, yeah. Pop, pop, pop. Hold on, I just realized I'm completely locked into the point where I've stopped talking. Hold on. Sorry, so... oh my. So I want to talk about an interest of mine. Before I do that, I want to finish what I was just thinking about or talking about, and I almost just fell there. And I mean real life. I almost just fell in real life. But I've noticed some funny trends with these episodes ever since I released the Hoi 4 video. I'm guessing for whatever reason, a lot of you have gotten the recommended video for my episode about women. Because that video has so many views. I just look. Hoi 4 players and women don't have a good reputation with each other. It's pretty funny. I'm here a wandering trader. They're 100% in my house. Yep. Inside my house. That's unbelievable. No, it's true. You can trade with them now. Wow, that's actually terrible. I mean, this isn't half bad. If I had a bucket of milk or a spider eye, fermented spider eye, I'd give it to him. Well, today's topic really is about history. It's about history in the sense of my love for history. I love history so much, and I think part of that is evident by the fact that I play a history game a lot. I've played multiple history games. I've played Hoi 4, EU4, EU5, Vic 2, Vic 3, a little bit of Crusader Kings 2 and 3, but I could never really get into Crusader Kings. I tried. I really did. I really tried. But I could not get into Crusader Kings. It's just something about it just wasn't that fun to me. I felt like the micromanaging was too much. There's too much and too many random values. I like strategy. I like it when you are in some way in control. While also navigating a complex sort of environment. Mm. So I could never really get into it because it just felt like the game was super rigged, is what it felt like. Mm. Like I'd spawn in and there'd already be a rebel revolt with like 5 times the size of my army, and I don't have any money income, so I couldn't hire mercenaries, so I just die instantly. And I was like, huh, this is such a fun game. And I know a lot of times you don't stop playing there because you just play as the new ruler a lot of times, but also you're supposed to be playing characters in that game. So when your dynasty dies, you die. In Crusader Kings, you're not the spirit of the nation. You are the person. You are the king. You are the queen. You are the prince. You are the princess. You are the leader, bringing your country either to glory or to destruction. And that's a bit of a double-edged sword. I like that idea. There's just one problem. It's a massive pain in my rear to make sure my my dynasty survives when I keep rolling really bad freaking checks and get all women and have to do matrilineal marriages just to get men back in. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. And you have any idea how hard it is to get matrilineal marriages? Like barely any nation wants to do it because they get nothing out of it. Mm. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, that's a valid concern. There's really no reason you'd ever want to sign away your prince. No matter how many princes you have, sign away their dynasty rights, you know what I mean? For any reason. Like, if I were a medieval king, I certainly would feel the same. I would not want my son to, even if I had like 10 sons, imagine I have 10 sons, various ages, I wouldn't want my youngest son married off matrilineally. Because I want to make sure all my sons are producing potential heirs in the future. Because you don't know what's going to happen in the next generation, right? For all you know, your bloodline could end in just another generation. Imagine 5 of 10 sons fail to produce a male heir before dying, but they have female heirs. This creates a problem. Also, why do I keep misplacing blocks? I'm getting really upset about this. Oh man, I went into a side rant. Okay, hold on. I guess it does support what I'm talking about, because that is history, and as a part of history I love. The medieval parts. My favorite part of history is late medieval to the World War era. For a very simple reason. I believe that that era, just in general, has the most interesting history. Everything that shapes our modern world, like our present, comes from this very specific part in the past. Sure, it is a complicated chain of cause and effect. I need to blow my nose. This is kind of getting ridiculous. The snot kept hitting my throat and causing irritation. It was cancer. But I adore history. I think history is easily the most interesting subject to learn about, period. And we need a sort of historical revival in the modern society. Like we live in an unprecedented time where we can record history at unprecedented rates with an unprecedented ease, and yet we just sit around and let our historians just starve on the streets because we don't want to hire historians. Like, not realizing these are some of the most important people in our society. Man, I'd be honored to be a historian, the keeper of ancient knowledge. You know, these were people who were highly valued in old societies. But now we just, like, I guess we just pretend that they don't matter. You know, people are like, well, it's boring, so I don't care. And it's like, well, yeah, guess what? Math is really freaking boring, too. Still gotta take a math class. It's still important. Even if knowing square roots is, generally speaking, not very important for the average worker. Learning math and learning math logic and reasoning is still important. Because it'll allow you to do math yourself in the future. And history is a sort of a process of learning about the past and what happened in the past and how it affects us today. Like, what is happening right now because of something that happened in the past? Like, right now, we have, let's say, American politics. We have Donald J. Trump as president, and you can look towards a lot of different factors in history. You can see that Donald Trump has had multiple presidential runs in the past. Sure, they weren't as serious as his 2016, 2020, and 2024 runs, but they were serious. He genuinely thought he should be president. And you have to explain, how does this man go from not a chance to the president of the United States 2 times? That is the fascinating part of history. And this man, no one thought was going to get this far, has gone this far. What could we have seen in the past that would have told us would have happened? You can look at countless figures in history and their upsets, like Garfield. President Garfield. It was a huge upset. No one really thought he was going to win. I mean, he literally basically lost. But he had a address speech endorsing another candidate that was just so good. People were like, you know what? Never mind. We like Garfield. These things happen. And that is exactly what happened with President Trump. Originally, people were not really vibing with Trump. Fair enough. He's a very divisive figure. He's a very divisive or divisive figure in American politics, as many are these days. And it's very easy to see why you would dislike him. But it's also very easy to see why you would like him. Because we live in a time period where populism is kind of taking root. And if you look at time periods in history where populism takes root, you see all these similar things back then that are happening now. You see powerful elites. You see economic exploitation of working class. You see all these different factors that are that often create populism. You see a crisis of culture and migration, which foments nationalistic sympathies. And you start understanding why people are having heightened senses of patriotism and all that sort of stuff, you know? Like, you can, like, predict that things like the America First movement was going to happen. I mean, a lot of people predicted it was going to happen. I certainly knew it was going to happen. I've been concerned that's gonna happen since 2016. I know I said concerned, even though I'm kind of a little bit behind it. I think America First is a respectable movement in many ways, but there's a lot of parts of it that I knew was going to happen. When, as a society, you choose way too radical of a political ideology too quickly, you don't. Here's the thing: when introducing new policy and new ideology into a country, you have to take it slow. Slow and steady wins the race, right? The problem is we were going slow and steady, and then someone, laid off of the brakes and onto the accelerate. And you know what happened? People freaked out. And reasonably so. American politics practically changed overnight. So people were, in shock. The whiplash was insane. And people are not stupid. They quickly realized what had happened and that they had gotten bamboozled by the establishment. I know I know this was not supposed to be a deep conversation, but it looks like it's a deep conversation, boys. Never mind. But it's just kind of going to show my love for history, which is the whole point. I'm just going on a history rant because I need to make a video today. I haven't made an episode of this, and I miss the house. I want to build this house so badly. But yes, so progressive ideology was pushed slowly on the American populace. If you look at it, especially, but the problem is you see, they had their foot on the brake for a long time, but with the election of President Obama, you see the brakes starting to come off, especially towards the end. We saw the embracement of rioter politics, where now rioters are seen as like great warriors of change, which is insane since that went against political, or rather American ideals for a long time. Americans clearly believe in protest. I mean, and even to an extent that riots are a legitimate or semi-legitimate form of protest, which I can argue that it is a legitimate form of protest, as it is supposed to communicate extreme discontent. You don't sit around peacefully with signs if you're extremely pissed off. You know what I mean? Riots are the natural evolution of people who are trying to protest but are going completely unheard or completely ununderstood. No one understands them. They're going unheard and they're pissed. Reasonable crash out. Right? That doesn't mean that rioting is like some inherently justifiable good thing. Often riots are bad, but they speak something, and that's what protests are supposed to be. They speak something. Just because it's a legitimate form of protest, philosophically, doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it, right? I still think that you should not participate in riots, if at all possible, because I think they should be discouraged. But like I said, it does speak a lot. You see in American politics this huge shift. And we've seen something like this before. We've seen this many times, where politics shift back and forth. Look at the post-Civil War era. After the Civil War, directly after it, the sentiment was Reconstruction. And making sure that Southerners wouldn't dominate politics again, right? And then what immediately happens afterwards? Oh boy, you better believe Southerners were getting elected. We had multiple Democrats get elected to the presidency. And tough segregationists and Jim Crow advocates getting elected everywhere. Radical Republicans attempted this, but they went hard and fast at first, and this created resistance. It's funny that the Democrats are the ones who took advantage of the Republicans' naivety in this situation, their political fundamentalism that made them a bit naive. And then, ironically, they did it themselves. A lot of the beliefs of the modern Democrat Party are not as popular as they like to make it out to be. For example, transgenderism. Most people will agree that they do not really care, right? If you see a transgender person, what do you think? Most people are gonna be like, that's kind of weird. It's like, oh, do you hate them? And I'll be like, no, why would I hate them? That's gonna be the majority of responses is no, why would I hate them, Because genuinely there is no reason to hate them. But there is reason to disagree with many of their political beliefs regarding transgenderism, like the ability for children to transition. That is a legitimate thing to be against. But the problem is that we've shut down conversation. I really have changed this into the title is gonna be My Love for History and a Random Rant. This is why you watch Affected Leech 47, by the way, is for random rants. That is literally the whole point of this series. So I hope I hope you buckled in, because it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse here on the channel. I'm only going to go on more deranged rants. Well, maybe not deranged, but definitely rants, for sure. But yes, we see a position where we embraced radical positions on things, and now we face radical backlash. When a pendulum, take a pendulum, move it all the way to the left, where does it go when you let go? It goes all the way to the right. Now, take your pendulum and move it slightly to the left from the middle and let go. It moves slightly to the right of center. Politics is much like a pendulum. When doing things, you don't want to make big maneuvers, because all you'll do is make that pendulum go the other direction. You hurt yourself and you do your own ideology a disservice by being radical. It's all a bit oxymoronic, isn't it? It's like being too into your own side in politics can actually hurt your side. So with, say, transgenderism, I feel like people will be a lot more accepting of transgenders if we had done things slowly instead of took the shotgun approach and just said, let them into the bathrooms, trans the kids, send them to the drag queen story times, like, if we had done these things, like, really slowly, oh, you better believe the American populace would have been slowly for it and would have not given a single care. Look at things like gay marriage. Gay marriage was a slower process. Sure, you could claim that came pretty suddenly with the Supreme Court decision. You can see that there was a lot of social progress there that was happening behind the scenes. It wasn't a quick and fast operation, which is why gay acceptance and gay marriage acceptance is really high these days. And now it's declining, actually. And part of that is because of the rejection of leftist policies and sort of social ideas caused by their hard and fast approach. So they're actually losing ground on ground they had pretty confidently won. Like, in a sense, it's like if California voted overwhelmingly red. That's how insane it is. This is something they've already won, something that's supposed to be their victory, and they've lost it. They're losing it. They're losing a victory that should be set in stone by now. By now, it should be set in stone. There should be no way that they're getting contesting. Like, there should be no contestation here. And yet there is, because of how much of a failure their party has been in the past decade. Now, that's not to glaze the Republicans at all. I may vote Republican, but I'm not exactly a chud. You know what I mean. I definitely think there's plenty of cringe on the right. In fact, there's probably more cringe. Well, no, not more cringe. It's just different cringe. Hmm. Like, oh my gosh, the red pill crap. Look, I hated Andrew Tate before it was cool, okay? I thought he was the biggest phony. He was fake, and he promoted values that were against my own. He believed that life as a man was all about making money and banging hot chicks, which is just that's not what being a man is at all. Not even remotely. Like, what? Oh, I should have talked about Andrew Tate in my episode about men. Ah, what a missed opportunity to absolutely brag on that guy. Let me tell you, nothing will keep you an incel longer than listening to Andrew Tate, bro. Never listen to Andrew Tate. Some of the things he says are insightful, I will say that. But he's insane, generally speaking. Like, I can't get behind the stuff he says at all. Like, occasionally he'll say something so abundantly obvious, it's like, yeah, no duh, idiot. Like, I don't even know how to describe it other than it's just like he's not really revealing anything new. See, I'm a Christian. I believe in Christian values, family values, stuff like that. So when I hear this very debaucherous man try to make other men debauchers, it makes me, upset. It's like, hold on. I may not be men's number one fan. I generally think that men I don't know if I touched on this in the men video, but I think that like men have lost their glory. Um I believe that being a man is an honor, because we are supposed to be an honorable gender. We're supposed to be gentle and firm, strong, both physically and emotionally, but not closed off. Not bottling up our emotions like we often do, thinking that that's strength. I do it too. That's not me just making fun of other dudes. I get it. I'm a dude too. I do things that are very dude things to do. But we're supposed to be the chivalrous gender. Women may be the fairer sex, but we are supposed to also be good. You know? We're not supposed to be mean and rude and only care about ourselves and our own goals. We're supposed to love others and sacrifice. Being a man is all about sacrifice. That's the beauty of being a man. And it's kind of one of the reflections of Christ within us, um, as men. We get to understand Christ's sacrifice through our own sacrifices. We get to experience that sort of love he must have had for us when we sacrifice for our children, for our wives. We think we love our children and our wives so much. that we'd sacrifice anything for them. And then you kind of come to realize that's exactly the love that Christ has for us. He sacrificed his own life for us. He beat the grave. Death is no more. We may, yes, our bodies still do die, but the grip that death has on us is gone. We now have the power through Christ, not by ourselves, but through Christ, to have eternal life. Through Christ alone, we find our salvation. And that's very important. And that is another part of history I love. I love biblical history so much. Oh my gosh, I adore biblical history. Oh, obviously I've mentioned kind of offhandedly, I'm at college, right? And it's a Christian college. It's a Baptist college. And oh my gosh, so there's obviously like required these 2 required classes that we take, and I loved both of them. Both of them, they're both religious classes, obviously, and they were just awesome. I loved the teachers. They were fun. They helped me learn so much more about our faith, helped me reinforce some bits of things I already knew, and learn new things. And come to understand better parts of my beliefs. It was a lot of fun. I love biblical classes, and I'm honestly thinking about taking more as electives. Also, how did you get all the way up here? Tell me there's not 2. There's 2. There's 2. This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them. Also, thoughts on that house so far? It looks busting. Oh my. Oh yes, sir. This looks good. I love the way this house looks so much. Oh my gosh, I adore this look. Oh, making the rooms is gonna be such a pain though, because of how many like windows I've got and every. Oh man. Oh man, I need more glass. I need to harvest more sand. No. But yes, I'm sorry I couldn't get this out at noon, or by noon rather, like I originally promised in that post, or I guess rather said that I was trying to get a episode out by this point. I'm currently about 11 minutes after 12, which means we are in the afternoon, unfortunately. But I am still more than capable of hopefully producing this video. It's a Hoi 4 video for those of you who watched my previous one. It's going to be edited much the same, but this time, hopefully, the music and sound effects won't absolutely destroy your eardrums, and you have to constantly adjust the volume. That's the hope. Right now, the music is a little over half. Well, I guess a little under half as quiet. So before I used like a 9 on that music, and now it's a 5.5. So it's almost a half reduction. But it's more like a 40% reduction in volume. I'm going to have to listen back to it a few times just to make sure that it isn't absolute eardrum destruction. Because I didn't want it to be too quiet. I hated how quiet the default audio was on my editing software. I could barely hear anything. Outside noises were louder, and it was like, nah, this is not standing. But that has been my history-related rant. This has been Leech, signing off.